Coming up next, some good news from overseas financial markets may help tomorrow's stock trading.
But Wall Street had a near-record plunge today, and one investor went gunning for his broker in Miami.
Well, the Amazing has an exclusive interview with George Steinbrenner on whether the Yankees want to move.
And Christmas toys for super rich kids.
We'll see you soon.
Lou Carnesecca on Bill Mazer.
Hey, Bill, you think you're so smart? Who wrote Jingle Bells?
Catch Bill Mazer on the 10 o'clock news weeknights on Fox Channel 5.
Catch up with New York's favorite comedy, MASH. Tonight at 11, right after the 10 o'clock news, right here on Fox Channel 5 New York.
Till now, finding an answer wasn't easy. If you had a bladder control problem, like millions of women, you had to find your own solution, or maybe try something big and bulky. Now there's new Serenity Regular Guards. Serenity's compact, yet it absorbs more where you need it most, more than even big undergarments. Serenity locks liquid into a gel that can't leak. The protection you've been searching for is here at last. New Serenity from Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, I want to run a classified ad in tomorrow's paper. For sale. 83 Honda Prelude. 45,000 miles. AC. Moonroof. AM/FM stereo cassette.
It's never easy parting with a Honda, but it does help to know that a Prelude, for instance, retains its value even better than a Mercedes.
You'll take it?
Honda, the car that sells itself. At your New York, New Jersey, Connecticut Tri-Honda dealer.
This Rado watch won't show the passing of time. Timeless styling. The scratch-proof Rado Anatom. See the entire Rado collection. At Tourneau, of course.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Live from Channel 5 News in New York, this is the 10 o'clock news.
Good evening. Last week's panic on Wall Street was gone today, replaced by pessimism, and instead of Black Monday, we had Black and Blue Monday. The volume wasn't near last Monday's record, but the big plunge in the Dow Industrial Average of almost 157 points was the second biggest on record. Only last Monday's crash was steeper. An average share of big board stock was down $2.57. And Amex average share was down $1.08. On paper, the market lost over $200 billion. One expert says investors had the entire weekend to simmer and get very emotional by today. And that emotion grew to rage that turned to murder near Miami. A man walked into a Merrill Lynch office, said he wanted to see his broker, that he had a check to cover his margin calls. He didn't have a check. He did have a gun. The way the police tell it, a 53-year-old Miami man by the name of Arthur Kane shot and killed one Merrill Lynch vice president, critically wounded another, then turned the gun around and killed himself.
It's our understanding that the assailant suffered losses in the stock market and that the shooting resulted related to that.
The dead executive was the office manager, 51-year-old Jose Arguilagos. The one who was wounded and rushed to a hospital by helicopter was 38 years old. His name is Lloyd Kolikoff. Another customer of his had told him to be careful. The stock market troubles might make somebody snap.
I just found out that somebody had been shot down here. The manager, one of the brokers, and the other, whoever it is, turned the gun on himself. And I thought, oh, Christ, I hope it's not, my friend.
People who knew Kane were stunned that he could do anything wrong.
He was just a decent guy. I mean, it's a horrible thing, and it just doesn't make any sense. Man never, this couldn't have entered his mind in a million years.
He's an old customer of the firm.
Everybody's in shock. It's very difficult. We have a lot of people that are not doing too well in there because we've been here. I've been there 8 years. I've known these people 8 years. And
what about the people who were shot, the employees who were shot? What can you tell us about them?
Just our manager, he was shot, our broker. But our broker's going to make it, I hope.
Well, that broker has been operated on. He is in critical condition. Coran?
John, the stock market slide has had a major impact on all the brokerage houses, and now one of the big firms has made the first job cuts as a result of the plunge. L.F. Rothschild says it lost $44 million because of the trouble on Wall Street. So it's cutting 150 jobs in its municipal bond division. That's 7% of its workforce. Now that week 2 on Wall Street has started off gloomy, everyone is wondering what's next. Christopher Jones takes a look.
When the opening bell rang this morning on the New York Stock Exchange, many asked for whom the bell tolled. They had already heard of the waves of selling that had hit the foreign markets in Tokyo, London, and Hong Kong, so perhaps they were not surprised when they found the bell tolled for almost everyone holding stocks, as the selling continued in New York over a wide spectrum. The problem now is simple: what to do and who to ask for advice.
Does anybody know what's happening?
Not really. This is such a different period from anything that we've experienced in our investment lifetimes that if one tells you today that they have their answers, I think either they're a liar or, frankly, perhaps a fool.
I thought that we would see a little more quiet day than this. I still think you can see a quiet day. I still think you have that possibility. But it's going to take a little while. This market is not yet ready to give up its fears and its ghosts and all the terrible things that it imagines.
If one has good quality companies, good quality stocks in the portfolio, I'd stay with them at the moment. If one is fully invested and comfortable and wants some liquidity, by all means, raise some cash. But I wouldn't liquidate the portfolio at this point.
Several market insiders we spoke with today insisted that some professionals are going into the market right now and buying. They say that's why they are professionals. That's why they make all that money. As for the rest of us, the market closed 2 hours earlier today, but not quite early enough. Christopher Jones, Fox News, Channel 5, in Manhattan.
And even though Wall Street worked through the weekend to catch up on its paperwork, the two big stock exchanges have decided to cut back their hours for the rest of the week. Through Friday, the New York Stock Exchange and the American Stock Exchange will continue to close at 2 in the afternoon to process the record volume of trading.
And from late last night through the night and into the morning, reports were coming in from one international stock market after another, and the news was always bad. And from those world capitals and from Wall Street, there's also been one strong demand on Washington to do something about all the red ink in the federal budget. Patrick McGrath says that Congress and the President were busy on just that today.
The international markets gave the first hint that this would be another bad. It began in Hong Kong, where the market there suffered the greatest loss in its history. Japan had its third worst day. In London, the British market dropped 110 points in the first 6 minutes of trading and ended up down 6% for the day. In London and elsewhere, economists were blaming the American budget deficit.
Can you react to the international markets being down?
I'm not commenting.
At the White House, President Reagan met with Democratic and Republican congressional leaders in what was billed as an economic summit to find a way to trim at least $23 billion from the deficit. This first meeting was largely procedural. They all agreed on the need for a ceasefire in the finger-pointing war over who is to blame for the deficit. The Democratic Speaker of the House, Jim Wright, thought the first meeting was productive.
We do have some fundamental agreements. One of them is that we surely will go forward and achieve the $23 billion deficit reduction. We agreed further that if it were possible to achieve more, we'd do that.
The Republican leader of the House, Robert Michael, was more cautious about the prospect of cutting more than $23 billion.
Any target we set, we better achieve in real spending without any kind of smoke and mirrors.
Wright and the Democrats want half of the deficit reduction to come from tax increases and half from spending cuts. The President and the Republicans are leaning toward a budget freeze. The President telling foreign journalists he doesn't like a tax increase.
I have suggested in my budget that I set up in which they refused to consider some adjustments to some of our taxes, but not just flat going out and raising, say, the income tax.
Tomorrow afternoon, after the market closes, White House and congressional representatives will begin negotiations on the specifics of reducing the deficit. No one will predict how long this will take, but the President's spokesman, Fitzwater, said he hoped it would be a matter of days. There is a lot of optimism that an agreement will be reached because, as House Majority Leader Thomas Foley put it, failure would be extremely negative. Patrick McGrath, Fox News, Washington.
Well, there was a sign of the strike on financial traders in Hong Kong. The stock market there has been closed since last Monday. Today it lost about a third of its value. And when a reporter asked about the closing, the chairman looked about to roll up his sleeves and punch.
You acted outside the laws of your own exchange, including closing the exchange on this.
What are you talking about? Look, this is slander. I tell you what. What is your name? And I want that my solicitor to take this down. I'm going to sue you for this.
Excuse me.
You said that I acted. You said I acted nothing against the law. I have gone too far. If you don't take it right now, you are going to get a lawsuit right now. For what name? I want your name first. I want your name and your address right now. You are alleging that I've infringed the law. You did. Of course I have not. You said you are. What is your name?
Now the chairman says he runs that exchange with a clean conscience. And Tuesday trading has already started in the Far East. There is some good news. Prices stabilized on the Tokyo exchange after dropping at the open and started going back up. Brokers say it looks firm.
For the small investor, these are unsettling times. If you're already in the market, do you stay or sell? And if you are not in the market, what's the best buy for your investment dollar? Most brokers agree that the small and middle-level investor are most vulnerable right now. At the investment firm of Richter, Cohen & Company, the advice to clients is caution.
If you were not in the market today, I would tell you to stay away from the market and keep your money in CDs and market accounts or possibly government bonds. On the other hand, if you are in the market today and you're not margined and you're not leveraged heavily and you have stocks that are fairly safe with yields and utility stocks, and you don't have to worry about that money coming in. In fact, you don't have to sell those stocks. I say hold them.
William Richter predicted this crash 6 months ago. He says the Reagan administration is making the same mistakes Hoover made during the last collapse in 1929.
One thing that we're struck by is that people calling us are mostly calling to say, there are good buys around. When can I go back in? Those calls outnumber the get me out by 10 to 1. That's encouraging.
What do you tell those people?
I tell them to wait. Let's see what happens in Washington.
You don't like hearing the word correction when it comes from Washington. What term would you use?
Crash. This is not a correction. This is the real thing.
And Richter says he's not usually a pessimist, but he insists a depression is a real possibility if the administration does not act quickly to slash at least $75 billion from the deficit.
Well, coming up next, why the prosecution star witness made the defense happy at the Howard Beach trial. The Yankees are suing the city over their lease, but does that mean they're planning to go to New Jersey? Rosanna Scotto and Bill Mazer have some answers. And Jean Kirkpatrick has the answers on why she's not running for the top spot on the GOP ticket, or even number 2. And Judy looks at what rich folks may want to give their kids for Christmas.
Potemkin does it again in 1988. We'll beat your best deal on any new 1988 Mitsubishi, or you get the car free. Choose from Prius, Montero, Starion, or the incredible new Galant Sigma. And Potemkin has hundreds of brand new Mitsubishis in stock. It's a fact. Nobody will beat a Potemkin deal, and we're so sure if we can't beat your deal, you get the car free.
Now what are you waiting for?
On Broadway, Joel Grey in Cabaret. There's nothing left to say but...
Willkommen, welcome. Come here, hear the music play.
Starring Allison Reed, Regina Resnick, Werner Klemperer, and Greg Edelman. Directed by Harold Prince. Call Telecharge 239-6200 for Joel Grey in Cabaret.
Welcome.
Prosecutors at the Howard Beach trial got a blow when their star witness seemed to contradict himself. Frank Grimes reports.
Early this morning, 18-year-old Robert Riley left his home in Howard Beach to appear in court so defense attorney Stephen Murphy could finish the cross-examination of Riley that began last Thursday. Last week, Riley testified that just after midnight on December 20th, 1986, he and a group of other young whites left a party in Howard Beach after John Lester, one of the youths charged with murder and manslaughter in the case, came into the party and yelled, quote, "There are some niggers on the boulevard. Let's go up there and kill them." But today, Riley's testimony seemed toned down. Murphy: "Sir, isn't it a fact that everybody left the party to go have a fight?" Riley: "No." Murphy: "They left there to kill them?" Riley: "No." Riley admitted that he was the aggressor when he and the others confronted Timothy Grimes, Cedric Sanderford, and Michael Griffith on Cross Bay Boulevard. Riley said he was the one who started chasing the three black men with a baseball bat. In questioning Riley, Murphy showed that while chasing Michael Griffith, Riley and some others drove slowly behind him on 156th Avenue, making no attempt to catch or injure him. Last week, Riley said the four defendants chased Griffith to the end of 90th Street. The prosecution contends that at that point, Griffith had no place to go but cross the Belt Parkway, where he was accidentally killed by a passing car. But today, Riley testified that when they got to the end of 90th Street, the car stopped and nobody chased Griffith. Murphy says Riley's testimony should knock out the murder and manslaughter charges.
I have the main witness in the case testifying that nobody intended on murdering anybody, nobody even intended on hurting anybody, and nobody was really trying to catch them either.
Special Prosecutor Charles Hines said he is not allowed to comment on testimony. The trial resumes tomorrow. Frank Grimes, Fox News, Channel 5.
Two teenagers are being held on capital murder charges in Texas for killing a young police officer who was working undercover at their high school. Police say 21-year-old George Raffield was posing as a student at Midlothian High as part of a drug investigation, but his cover was blown. He was found shot to death next to his pickup truck after he spent some time talking with two students, a 16 and 17-year-old, now charged with his murder. It's expected they'll be tried as adults.
Well, there's some good news for little Jessica McClure tonight. After more surgery, doctors say now they're sure they won't have to amputate her right foot. She heard it, of course, when she fell into that well and was trapped for 58 hours. She lost circulation in her foot, and the doctors were worried they would have to amputate it. They say now, though, that she will lose the tips of her little and big toes. Today was her fourth operation. The doctors removed some dead skin from her foot and heel. Plan to operate again at the end of the week.
And John, another toddler is fortunate to be alive tonight after falling into a backyard well in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. This morning, 20-month-old Colin Barleycorn fell through the rotted wood that covered the well in his backyard. He was put out of his mom's sight when he fell, and when police got to him, he was unconscious, floating in the water at the bottom. They gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and rushed him to Valley Hospital. He's now in critical condition. Rescuers said they were amazed something like this could happen so soon after the incident with little Jessica McClure in Texas.
Well, something is up with the Yankees. Either George Steinbrenner is playing games or he's got his eyes on the Meadowlands. But somehow the Bronx Bombers has a much better ring to it than the hack-and-sack hitters. In any case, Babe Ruth has to be rolling over in his grave. The Amazing has an exclusive talk with Steinbrenner coming up right now. This report from Rosanna Scotto.
Will Yankee Stadium continue to house one of New York's most loved baseball teams, or is George Steinbrenner just playing hardball with the city?
About 4 o'clock this afternoon, a messenger arrived here at the county clerk's office in Bronx Supreme Court with papers from the law office of Melvin Leventhal. Leventhal is representing the New York Yankees. In the papers, the Yankees are suing the city for breach of contract and asking for $10 million in damages. Many feel this legal motion could open the door for the Bronx Bombers to move to New Jersey.
On the telephone tonight, George Steinbrenner told Bill Mazur that the lawsuit has nothing to do with reports the Yankees may move. The lawsuit claims that the city breached its contract by not providing 6,900 more parking spaces. It also asked for $10 million in damages. This is the third time the Yankees have taken the city to court. Mayor Koch says he's not worried.
We've been in court before. This is a very tough lease. Cannot get out of it.
Meanwhile, in New Jersey, Governor Tom Kean is laying the foundation for a new baseball stadium just in case the Yankees decide to defect.
We used to have a wonderful subway series, and we had the Brooklyn Dodgers around and all of that.
We set a fund to have a ferry boat series.
And in the Bronx, they weren't taking all this very well.
Oh, I would be devastated if the Yankees moved to New Jersey. I've been a Yankee fan for so many years, since I was a little guy, and that's many years. What would I do without the Yankees in New York?
Jersey's not right for them. They can't do what the Giants did to us. I don't want to see that happen.
If they move to New Jersey, they're going to lose a lot of fans. That's you can rest assured. I mean, New York made them. Let's face it.
Some people close to George Steinbrenner told me today there's nothing to this legal motion. It's just Steinbrenner's way of trying to get the city to move quickly. But because the Yankee boss is so unpredictable, others are not taking this lightly. They're concerned that New York could lose yet another favorite baseball team. From Yankee Stadium, Rosanna Scotto, Fox News, Channel 5.
And you'll hear from the Yankee boss talking to our amazing exclusively a little bit later in the program. Corinne?
John, 3 former members of the Jewish Defense League faced a judge today for their sentences. Vincent Vancier, the leader of the tear gas attack on the audience at Lincoln Center during a Soviet ballet performance, got 10 years in jail. He had told the judge, "I deserve to be punished." 60-year-old Murray Young got 5 years in prison, and 44-year-old Sharon Katz got 6 months house arrest and a $5,000 fine. A 4th defendant, Jay Cohen, killed himself in a Catskills hotel last month.
Well, coming up next, the mayor's getting ready for his trip to Nicaragua.
And Jean Kirkpatrick says she won't run. Don't ask her.
Catch up with New York's favorite comedy, MASH. Tonight at 11, right after the 10 o'clock news, right here on Fox Channel 5 New York.
Central vital signs of drug.
It's an emergency. You're going to need blood. Blood you can trust. That's why DuPont worked to create a highly accurate method of testing to help protect our blood supply from the deadly AIDS virus. Their system enables us to have more confidence that the blood we need to live won't be hazardous to our health.
Your husband's gonna make it.
At DuPont, we make the things that make a difference. Better things.
The latest threat from Iran over events in the Persian Gulf. In the meantime, President Reagan was taking action against Iran. He cut off oil imports from that country. That's $500 million and more that won't go into the Ayatollah's pocket. And vital exports from our country to Iran are also being cut off.
The head of a human rights group in El Salvador was about to drive his children to school today, but 2 gunmen walked up and shot and killed him with automatic silencers. He was the 4th commission member to die in recent years, and the group blames all the killings on government-backed death squads. Mayor Koch is headed for Nicaragua next week, and tonight on Koch on Call, Jim Ryan talked with the mayor about his plans and what he hopes to accomplish.
I'm going to tell you the first thing I'm going to do. I spoke with the president of IBM today, and he's agreed to contribute business machines, typewriters with memory banks and other things to La Prensa and to Católica Radio. I've got to get a waiver from the United States government that doesn't allow trade with Nicaragua. Elliott has said he's going to arrange that, and then I have to call the ambassador from Nicaragua so that they don't prevent it from coming into the country of Nicaragua or tax it. I'm sure that they will cooperate as well.
The mayor also plans to talk with Daniel Ortega. He wants to know if the Sandinista president will uphold the peace plan and release political prisoners.
There was a lot of talk over the weekend that the Republicans were going to get a new presidential candidate, Jean Kirkpatrick. But former U.S. ambassador to the UN said flatly yesterday she's not running. Today she was an hour to
Senator Kirkpatrick spoke to a meeting of the American Trucking Association about the vulnerability of America in this era of global interdependence. Politics was not discussed until a question and answer period afterwards.
You consider a vice presidential spot?
I have a very good job, let me say. As a matter of fact, I have several very good jobs. I am very happy in them, and I am simply not looking beyond them at all.
Despite that, several people at the luncheon said Kirkpatrick would be a formidable vice presidential candidate for the Republicans, including former Transportation Secretary, whose husband, Senator Robert Dole, wants to be the GOP standard bearer.
In terms of Jean's qualifications, she
would be a tremendous vice president, and I know how highly Bob regards her. So certainly she would be one of the people, I'm sure, that he would feel was worthy of that position.
Everyone says you're very attractive as a vice presidential candidate. Would you accept if you were properly approached?
I don't think about those questions. I really don't. This is. I never think about, other possible jobs I might have than the job I have.
Well, that's about as close to a flat refusal to be a candidate as anyone has come so far. Still in all, Ambassador Kirkpatrick, as she did here today to the Truckers Association.
Last week, President Reagan suffered a setback when Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev refused to set a summit date to sign a treaty on medium-range weapons. He expected the Soviet leader to come to the U.S. by the end of the year, but Gorbachev said the U.S. must first make concessions as a bargaining chip. Edith Luckett Davis, the mom of First Lady Nancy Reagan, died today of a stroke. She was 91 years old. Mrs. Davis was a Broadway actress when Nancy Davis was young. Her second husband, Lloyd Davis, died 5 years ago. Mrs. Reagan, who is still recuperating from breast cancer surgery, was said to be very upset, understandably, about her mom's death. She and the president will leave for her mom's home in Phoenix tomorrow morning.
Well, coming up next, the mayor is ready to throw in the towel in his fight with Father Ritter.
And His Honor has a new plan to put their moms to work.
Recipients go to work. Not all of them, just the ones who can. As Steve Dunlop reports, His Honor figures it's about time.
You like it. You really will like it. Work is good for you.
From New York's quintessential workaholic comes a pledge to win some converts. Under a plan he submitted to Governor Cuomo, Mayor Koch would require virtually all $900 a year for transportation and other expenses. Medicaid is also included. The benefits decline as job income rises, and they end entirely when income rises to $13,000 a year. Koch wants to try the idea in Jamaica, East New York, and the South Bronx as an experiment. He still needs state and federal approval. At a city welfare office on West 14th Street, the concept met with mixed reviews.
If there's a program like you was telling me about that can supplement you.
From City Hall, Steve Dunlop, Fox News Channel 5.
And Mayor Koch has given up his squabble with Father Bruce Ritter of Covenant House. They were fighting for the right to buy the Maritime Union building in Chelsea. Father Ritter wanted to house runaways there. The mayor wanted it as a home for work-release prisoners. Mayor Koch threatened to condemn the building if it went to Ritter, but he backed down after the priest got backing from the Board of Estimate. His Honor still accuses Father Ritter of stealing his prison.
Well, the city's newest floating jail has arrived, the Venture. It's docked at Pier 36. It's a barge that British sailors used during the Falklands War. In 3 weeks, it will take on about 400 low-risk inmates. The barge will be moved to Rikers Island next year, and it'll be joined by a second converted Falklands barge. The city's already using an old Staten Island ferry to ease the crunch on overcrowded prisons. And if you're trying to ease the crunch on your budget with Lotto, get ready.
Monday's fun is Cash 40, the game with the better odds and where every prize you win, no matter how big a jackpot, is paid in a single cash payment. I'm Bob. Play the games of the New York Lottery. This is going to be an exciting week. Tonight's prize, more than $500,000 cash. And the Win 10 New York's Keno game,
We've got a lot more coming up for you. The Amazing has an exclusive interview with Yankee owner George Steinbrenner about those stories that the team is thinking of moving to New Jersey. Sylvester Stallone is showing quite an interest these days in an Israeli teenager. Judy looks at the toys you can buy this Christmas if you bring along a wheelbarrow full of money.
Well, she's expected to get probation. And we have late word now in from El Salvador. The assassination of a human rights leader, Herbert Anaya, has touched off some violent protests tonight. A mob stopped a bus, ordered everybody off, and then burned it. Hundreds of political prisoners have taken over the main prison, and more protests and strikes are being called for tomorrow. It could turn out to be a major challenge to American-backed President Duarte in El Salvador.
Well, the Air Force says that the F-16 is the safest single-engine plane ever made. But 28 pilots have been killed flying that jet, so a congressional committee is checking their safety record. A woman whose husband died while flying an F-16 says the jets are deadly. Janet Hardival told the panel General Dynamics knowingly sold defective jets to the military. But even though she won a lawsuit against the manufacturer, the Air Force
Stock market may be affecting what we buy these days, but it's apparently not causing the wealthy to think twice when it comes to expensive toys. Judy Lick shows us what the holidays will bring for some rich kids.
How much is that doggy in the window?
Don't ask. In this age when wretched excess seems to have become an American way of life, it appears we've passed our preferences on to our kids.
Case in point, the brand new Ultimate Toy Catalog from FAO Schwartz for the child who has everything, including indulgent parents willing to pay for the likes of a 24-karat gold limited edition musical carousel. Like this little trinket for your top, it'll only set you back a mere $12,000, or maybe your little princess would prefer fur. For $2,500, you can buy her a ranch mink coat. And if your little fella is having trouble making Little League practice on time, or maybe getting through his newspaper route before school, why not get him a little Lamborghini? It'll go up to 30 miles an hour with a custom leather interior. Cost $14,500. Sorry, no gift wrap. Or maybe you'd like a baby grand at $350, or a simple stuffed toy. This gorilla can be yours for $450. Yeah, but what kind of a message are we sending our kids with these high-ticket toys?
I think the message is probably that there's something for everyone, and although some of the more extraordinary things are clearly not for huge numbers of people, the very fact that they're there allows us all to dream and fantasize.
Unfortunately, most parents will fantasize about going broke.
On the planning board right now, Channel 5 has learned there's a first children's bank, an offspring, if you will, of the first woman's bank. Kids with accounts would be provided with their own checkbook with oversized checks, a monthly bank statement, and, Lord help us, maybe even a credit card.
I think that we've become, fortunately for me, a decade of conspicuous consumption. It doesn't seem to matter how expensive things are, there is always a customer.
Who better should know than Robin Leach, who himself is cashing in on the craze with his new board game version of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
This way, if you don't have the money to buy the real stuff, at least you could pretend.
Fantasy and escape, that's what it's all about.
And given the events this past week on Wall Street, that's what most of us will have to settle for. Fantasy. Judy Licht, Fox News, Channel 5.
Well, next, does Rambo have a crush on a teenage girl?
And Stu is here to review a movie about a cop who gets too involved with some California car thieves. It's called No Man's Land.
On the set of Rambo 3 is that Stallone is smitten again. No starlet, this is a 17-year-old schoolgirl from Tel Aviv. Her name is Hyla Gold. She was part of the first aid crew on the Rambo set when their eyes met in the Mediterranean night. Hyla says Sly told her, "You make me act better." And the stewardess told you we all know that he can use all the acting help he can get. Now, we don't know if Hyla's mom expects her to marry a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist, but we wonder what her reaction will be if she opens the door and Hyla says, "Hi, Mom, I'd like you to meet Rambo."
It would be a sight, huh?
Forgive me, I find that highly unlikely.
Charlie Sheen.
One never knows, do one.
Charlie Sheen tops the cast of a new thriller. The movie is called No Man's Land, and here with his review is Stuart Klein. Stu.
Thanks, Corrad. The hero is a young rookie cop. He is assigned to work as an undercover mechanic at a Porsche repair shop, the suspected front of a car theft ring run by villain Charlie Sheen. The young cop is dedicated, intense, uncorruptible, and then he falls. Has Sheen lured the cop astray with offers of money, drugs, women? The bait is truly far more diabolical, and here it is.
You want to drive my car?
Yep, the cop is doomed. For here is the ultimate fantasy of every teenager in the movie audience. Driving a Porsche full blast through Beverly Hills. A terrific movie if it had been cut down to 30 seconds.
About the length of a good commercial. Good. All right. Nick will have some weather for you ahead. Some problems, apparently. Nick has all that coming up.
Then the Amazing has an exclusive talk with a Yankees owner and takes a look at why the Giants won. They had the right stuff.
Touchdown! Super catch. Lionel Manuel.
This weather report is brought to you by the Tri-State Volkswagen dealers.
Volkswagen engineers have spent years refining our front-wheel drive, rack and pinion steering, and four-wheel independent suspension.
Is that the deal?
That's the deal.
Well, you can't have a rainbow without rain.
Oh, this is true, John.
So?
I tell you.
He's so romantic, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well...
Actually, though, we've been very lucky. We really have not had much rain, John and Coran, across the tri-state area in the last couple of weeks, so we're a little behind in the rain bucket. We need to get some in here, and it's going to be that good soaking rain that will affect us tomorrow night on into Wednesday. So, and then maybe we'll see the rainbow after that. Right now, though, we're looking at a high temperature today of 59 degrees. The low is 37 this morning. Rather chilly. Not a record, though. The record for this morning was 30, by the way. No rain. Right now it's 46. The humidity at 71%. The wind is calm, and the barometer starting to fall from 30.19. Still clear across the area, but cold. Look at some of these temperatures. Look at Islip. 33 degrees. Some of the areas in central Long Island will dip down to right below the freezing mark tonight. Rivervale at 33, Saddlebrook 36. Basically, though, in the upper 40s around town. And we find 26 out in Oak Ridge. Here's a satellite picture. We're watching this system in the midsection of the country. Watch it move towards us, and another little low-pressure area down here across the southeast. The two are going to combine, and that means trouble for us, again, as that one front moves in from the north. The other storm moves through the southeast and starts to redevelop right along the coast. You see that on the weather map tonight. The low, again, right down here in western Tennessee, variety of showers and some thunderstorms with it, and the other front up here in parts of Wisconsin. This is what brought us the sunshine and the cold weather today, but as you'll see on the map for tomorrow, that high pressure starts to be pushed out as the front starts moving in from the west. The storm heads right off to the southeast coast, will redevelop here in the Carolinas, then come up the coast. That's almost like a winter-type pattern, and that means some rainfall coming towards us tomorrow night. But for the rest of the night, just a few clouds, rather cool, 43 here in the city, 20s north and west. Little sun early in the day, but the clouds move in rapidly up to 61 for the high tomorrow. Rain develops, though, late tomorrow afternoon, heavy at times tomorrow night. The rain continues into Wednesday morning, then cloudy, 57. Sunny, though, for Thursday and Friday, mid to upper 50s. John and Coran?
There's no flooding, okay?
No, we'll try to keep that away because
terrific.
Especially northwest Jersey, they really get it.
You're right. Thank you, Nick. And Nick, you know that the weather that makes us shiver is just around the corner when ice skating rinks open. Today, the rink at Rockefeller Center kicked off its skating season with some familiar folks. Snow White and a few of her bearded buddies helping with the celebration. And if you like to pirouette on ice, you will have plenty of time because the rink will be open every day till 10 at night. John, you can do a few of those pirouettes on ice.
Not if they close at 10.
Oh, but you can go early before work.
I got to be here. Oh, I got to be here. Are you kidding? Looking up questions for the Amazing.
Does she know that you at one time were a great figure skater?
I'm not even going to go into that.
I know he's good on his
She was just a gleam in her mother's eye when that was the case. I got a question for you tonight, Amazing, from Peter Grillo. He's from North Haven, Connecticut.
I know what you just said.
Yes. Who was the only fighter who went the distance and was never knocked down in 2 10-round bouts with Rocky Marciano, October 10th, 1949, and November 13th, 1950 in Providence, Rhode Island. This guy gives you everything but the answer.
What's his name again?
His name is Peter Grillo, North Haven.
Isn't it funny that he would ask that?
Why?
Because he doesn't know that I broadcast the fights in Buffalo between 1948 and I was just 12 years old. And 1948 and 64. This guy used to fight in Buffalo all the time. His name was Tiger Ted Lowry.
Thanks for finally answering.
Tiger Ted, he was a good fighter. He used to fight Lee Oma.
More than you ever wanted. We always, the Amazing is next.
A part of history never before.
You can see it everywhere. Everything you need is there. A brighter day, a baking tray, a special smile that says we care. We built a feeling, a proud new feeling. We built a feeling, a proud new feeling. We built a proud new feeling. A&B.
This Channel 5 Sports Report is brought to you by WFAN Sports Radio 1050.
Just try catching the sports on most radio stations. Then try WFAN 1050 AM, the world's first 24-hour sports radio station.
You know, there's only one guy in town that when Steinbrenner says something, there's one guy in town,
Right
the Amazing, who tracks him down wherever he is in this wide world and gets the definitive inside answer.
I wish you could have heard
everything that we need to know about whether or not
I wish you could have heard what he said to me before. Look, earlier Rosanna Scotto reported on the Yankee lawsuit against the city, and the question is it a prelude to a Yankee move? Well, let's find out from the one man who knows, George Steinbrenner.
You're not moving to Jersey, are you?
Listen, that thing about the lawsuit, Bill, was that lawsuit has been in there for several years. It's nothing new. It had to do with the lack of parking spaces. Under the contract, they were supposed to provide us with X number of parking spaces. They did not do that, and we begged them for 10 years to give us...
Who do you blame? Your friend Mayor Koch?
No, I don't blame Ed Koch. No, I will not blame Ed. It was a question that they had a lot of more pressing problems, and they just didn't get around to it. So the reason we filed that was we feel they owe us some money for not having those parking spaces, because we want parking to take care of our fans.
But you're not moving to Jersey.
That one had nothing to do with the other. We're in serious meetings with them, Bill, at this time, trying to get a contract by this week.
George, are you moving? George, are you moving to Jersey?
Bill, I can't say one way or another now. I want to stay where I am. I want parking for my fans. I think the state has been great. Valone and the city council have been great, and now I think the city, the mayor's people are getting in gear, and I want to wind it up this week so that people don't say, well, it's Steinbrenner trying to drag the thing out and delay it. It is not the Yankees. We want to meet and get the thing settled, and my understanding is they're meeting tomorrow.
There you have it. We'll wait for the outcome of the meeting. Minnesota's win following the Cinderella archetype, you know, really, though instead of being Cinderella, they had too many guns for a St. Louis pitching staff that staggered. As for the umpiring, hey, it was consistent. It was marvelous for 6 games. It was awful in the 7th game, but equally awful. They didn't favor one team or the other. The thing that's amazing is how the same guys who looked so great for 6 games could go sour in the last. It defies explanation, and don't give me that it was the pressure of the 7th game. There's always pressure in umpiring, but the calls evened out. The one overwhelming fact is that John Tudor isn't a finisher. That self-knowledge must be what makes him the sour apple that he is. At the Garden tonight, the Rangers against Philadelphia. The Flyers had Ron Hextall in goal for the first time this season. The game was tied at 1-1, went between the Giants and the Jets yesterday. Watch. Look at the catch by Lionel Manuel. Gorgeous. Now, watch this play by Freeman McNeil. Watch the play by Freeman McNeil. Please, watch the play by Freeman McNeil. This should have been a touchdown. He slips and he falls. He said the field couldn't hold the cut. That's why the Giants won and the Jets didn't, but the Jets, though, are in first place, and the Giants are still searching. At Yonkers, the double Boy, BB paid $39.40. C. Charlie, D. Dutch, A. Apple paid $270.60 in the 4th triple. Tonight, pro football, Cleveland leads the Rams 23-7 at the half, and Denver leads Minnesota 17-14 at the half.
All right, amazing. Here's one for you from Newark. A teenager from Newark, New Jersey, stole a car there today and ended up trying to outrun the police. He turned into the airport, got mixed up trying to find a way out, took a turn on Tower Road. Now, if you know the airport, Tower Road takes you right to the police headquarters. He was quite surprised. The police who were waiting weren't. That's our report for tonight. I'm John Rowland.
And I'm Coran Mahalik. We'll see you again tomorrow night on Fox News at 7.
Thanks for being with us. Good night.
Good night.